All right, welcome to Hoops Tonight here at The Volume. Happy Sunday, everybody. Hope all of you guys are having a great weekend. As promised, we have our film session today. I have 86 clips from 3 different games to go into. I have a angry Laker fan film session off the top that's like 50 clips long of me just being really annoyed that the Lakers didn't bring the appropriate playoff intensity. After that, just some brief clips from the Detroit Pistons game to demonstrate the difference in the way that Brunson was attacking versus the way that Cade was attacking. Then at the tail end of the show, just some notes from the Clippers Nuggets series, specifically how Denver upped their defensive intensity in pick and roll to force the Clippers into making mistakes. So lots of visual examples of the stuff that we talked last night and some takeaways looking forward in the series. You guys know the drill. Before we get started, subscribe to the Hoops Tonight YouTube channel so you don't miss any more of our videos. Follow me on Twitter at _JasonLT so you guys don't miss show announcements. Don't forget about our podcast feed wherever you get your podcasts under Hoops Tonight. It's also super helpful if you leave your rating and a review on that front. We have social media feeds on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook where we're doing content throughout the year. Make sure you guys follow us there. And then last but not least, keep dropping mailbag questions in the YouTube comments so that we can get to them in our mailbags throughout the remainder of the year. All right, let's talk some basketball. So just real quick up front, just the surface level stuff. With the Lakers game, it immediately stood out to me just a gap in intensity. I'll show you guys several examples of just the difference between the way that Minnesota was attacking each little element of the game and the way that the Lakers were attacking each little element of the game. That's why I was so keyed in on what the first half will look like in game 2. Because in game 2, I thoroughly expect the Lakers to bring a much higher level of physicality and intensity. And that we will get to see a better example of what the two teams look like in that type of setting. And that's why if they go into that game and we go into halftime and the Wolves are up by 5-6 points and still kind of in control, I would take that as a huge sign of concern for the Lakers. And if the Lakers are as good as I think they can be, they should take care of business. That's really what it keeps coming down to for me, is if the Lakers are the team that I have thought that they are for most of this stretch after the All-Star break, they will go into game 2 and they won't just beat Minnesota. They'll control that game throughout. And I think that'll be a really strong indicator. I think if it looks rough for the Lakers out the gates in game 2, that's a really strong sign that the Wolves are going to get a win. So let's get into some of these film examples so that we can start to see exactly the kind of stuff that I'm talking about. The NBA 82-game grind is done, and now the real fun begins. The NBA playoffs are here, and it's time for all the high-stakes drama, clutch moments, and jaw-dropping plays. I can't wait. If you're looking to make the playoffs even more exciting, DraftKings Sportsbook has you covered as an official sports betting partner of the NBA. From the play-in games all the way through to the finals, now's the time to back your favorite players and teams as they chase glory. All season long, DraftKings has been the go-to spot for NBA player props, and that does not stop now. Want to make your playoff experience even more intense? Try placing a bet on your favorite player's performance. Will they drop 30 points, 40, or more? It's your call. Ready to place your first bet? Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Lock in your bets. Let's make this playoff run unforgettable. Here's something special for first-timers. New DraftKings customers bet $5 to get $200 in bonus bets instantly. Make it a playoff run to remember with DraftKings. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code HOOPS. That's HOOPS. That's code HOOPS for new customers to get $200 in bonus bets when you bet just $5. Only on DraftKings. The crown is yours. All right, so in this first clip, I just wanted to call attention to the specific matchup of Rui and Mike Conley. So as you can see here, LeBron is going to throw a post feed to Rui against Mike Conley. And this is a textbook example of how not to mismatch attack in the post. So Rui's got a small on him here. And as you can see, as he's attacking, Ant is completely hugged up on Jackson Hayes so that Rudy Gobert can help on the post up. And so Rui's already accomplished his goal here. He's effectively caused 3 Wolves to guard 2 Lakers. All he needs to do is take one more aggressive dribble towards the middle and throw this kick out pass to Austin Reaves. You've done the job. You've taken the mismatch, which is Rui on Mike Conley, and turned it into a wide open 3 for Austin Reaves. What you can't do is settle for a highly difficult 2-point jump shot. And that's what Rui does. He settles for a right shoulder fade, which is a shot he can make, but he's going to hit it about 40% of the time. And that's a shot that the Wolves are going to live with. So that was an example of just poor matchup attacking right out the gates there. This was, I thought, an example of just Austin looking a little out of rhythm early in the game. He's in a ball screen here with Rudy Gobert going against a drop coverage. He's in the short range here, but he just leaves this alligator arm floater way short. I also thought this was an example. You'll see several examples of this in the film where Ant was just going right at Austin and really breaking him down off the dribble, just with really aggressive like counter moves, just breaks Austin off. He ends up making a bad rim read here, going at Jackson instead of just taking a kick out read. But that was abundantly clear in the film that like Austin was really struggling to hang with Anthony Edwards. I actually thought, even though Rui struggled in a bunch of other places, which I'll show in the film, Austin really struggled in that matchup, and Rui looked a little bit better than him. Something to think about for the matchups throughout the rest of the series. Here's an example of where Jackson Hayes' vertical spacing was not much of a factor in this game. In order for Jackson to play in this lineup, he's got to do what Derek Lively and Daniel Gafford did, which is be a legitimate spacing window in the pocket and out of the dunker spot. And this was a simple ball screen with LeBron and Jackson. Typical drop coverage, right? So Rudy Gobert is defending both the ball handler and the roller. LeBron hits Jackson in the pocket. He's got the angle. He's got the advantage. This has to be a make. And Jackson just can't finish over Rudy Gobert. That's a lack of vertical spacing there. Julius Randle, I thought, logged a lot of really good reps of individual defense against Luka Doncic and LeBron James. We talked before the series about how that was going to be an interesting matchup. This was very good defense from Julius Randle on Luka Doncic, which I think is encouraging for Wolves fans. That's a matchup I think they're doing well in. Here's another example. I'll be pulling that clip up later. Switching in a ball screen and the Lakers looking to attack that switch with mid-range jump shots against, again, like if it's Luka did really well in his switches against Gobert, but LeBron and Austin in particular, they were settling for some really difficult contested mid-range jump shots. It's just not going to work against these switches. Here is another example of, I thought, Austin just looking like he was out of rhythm and not really ready for the game. As he has this catch here against Jaden McDaniels. So look, he's dribbling out against Jaden McDaniels. Rui Hachimura is standing against Mike Conley. And Austin, just for no particular reason, just throws, because of Jaden McDaniels applying some ball pressure. Look at the ball pressure from Jaden. He's up in his face, and Austin just throws the ball away. That's just not being ready for playoff intensity. Rui's not going to do anything with the ball there. You're the point guard. You need to get the offense organized and get the guys where they want to, where they need to be successful. And that was just panicking against ball pressure. Here's another example of Anthony Edwards just doing a ton of damage right at the point of attack with aggressive counter moves. Look at this. So he sets up like he's going to come off the ball screen. Watch the way he just rips to the left on Gabe. That forces hard help out of the strong side corner and then generates a wide open three for Dante DiVincenzo. A lot of that from Ant, where he's just like immediately breaking down the Lakers right off the top of the possession. Same sort of thing here against Rui Hachimura. Rui Hachimura touches the earth here. This was a ridiculous move. So we get a series of switches. Rui's on Ant. He had some good reps on Ant in this game. This was not one of them. Boom, boom, just on the ground. But as you can see, it's like he's coming so hard downhill towards the rim. There are so many more easy opportunities for Ant off of those super aggressive dribble moves when he breaks you down that significantly. You have to find a way to flatten out that drive, make it not so clearly devastating to your defense. This was an example of just Ant taking easy reads that were in front of him. So he's just driving at Rui, right? But look at where Gabe is. Gabe is at the nail, right? Gabe is at the nail. He drives. As Naz cuts through, look where Luka is. And I thought Luka made a lot of poor help decisions like this. So look at the paint. We have 5 Lakers that are at or near the paint, right? Luka doesn't need to be this far in on a simple kick out read like this, especially when there's all of this help already. Easy kick out pass to Jaden McDaniels, and he knocks it down. I kind of understood that one, at least from the standpoint of the game plan, but you'll see some examples later of ones that I don't agree with. They got a really clean look here for Luka after using Luka as a screener. Jaden McDaniels really did not want to switch off of Luka if he could avoid it. So this is something I think the Lakers should explore a lot in game 2, is just using Luka as a screener. On the screen, he breaks Dante off so bad that Jaden has to switch. Then they both run with Austin, and that ends up giving Luka a wide open three at the top of the key. Something to keep an eye on. This is actually a different example from earlier in the game, one of the first possessions where Luka set a screen for LeBron. Same sort of thing. Look, we have a top block from Jaden McDaniels. He does not want to switch. Luka sets a good screen. That gets LeBron downhill against Rudy. If Jackson was paying attention instead of spotting up at the three-point line and cut, if you would have cut just a second earlier, this is a dunk. But because he was late, the window closed up on him, and LeBron settles for that tough. Well, LeBron ends up throwing the lob, but it just was too late for that to ever have worked. This is another example I thought of the Lakers just not being ready for playoff intensity. Look at Naz Reid coming off this screening action. It's a clear switch, right? They're clearly thinking it's a switch, but Naz Reid is a very good offensive player that's going to look to be aggressive and try to score. He attacks, and Rudy meets him way down at the foul line in a passive open stance, and Naz just goes right through him to the rim. Like, that's just not playoff intensity from Rui Hachimura defensively. Very similar example from earlier in the game. Jackson in a switch with LeBron. So LeBron is guarding Julius Randle. Jackson's guarding Mike Conley. It's an easy switch, but look at how far back Jackson is. Both of them are way far back, and they're basically just conceding that shot. You can see the difference between that and the way that they're pressing up on every Lakers player in that situation. I will say, even though I didn't think the Austin or LeBron attacks against the bigs were working, Luka was doing a good job against the bigs and switches. This was working. The Luka versus Rudy Gobert, he's able to just get him off balance enough to get down into the paint where he can hit his little short range shots or break the defense down. That was working. Here's another example of Rui just lacking that playoff intensity. So it's a transition push, right? Rui's just backpedaling. Watch Dorian Finney-Smith. He's already pointing. Rui is pointing for everybody to pick up the ball or pick up the other players because Dorian thinks he's got Gobert, right? See, pointing. He points again, but Rui's just not ready, and Ant gets a wide open layup. Watch Rui again on this whole possession, just backpedaling, doesn't stop the ball. That's like that. This is an important playoff game. You lose game one of the series, you lose the series about 75% of the time. Look at Rui Hachimura. This is just not ready for playoff basketball. That's unserious. And like that happened to Rui last year in the Denver series. He came into the series and just looked completely unready for playoff intensity. So Rui just needs to wake up. He needs to figure it out sooner than later. Here's another screen, a little screen action. Look at how Luka does not actually make contact with Austin this time, and as a result, or with Ant this time. So as a result, the action doesn't actually work, right? Austin then gets Rudy Gobert in a switch. So now we have the switch, right? We have Austin against Rudy in a switch. But like I talked about earlier, Austin and LeBron were just settling for some pretty low quality shots. This is a really tough shot. Austin might hit that 45% of the time, maybe. And that's just not going to be a shot that Minnesota is going to really care about. Similar example from earlier in the game. I told you guys I was going to bring this clip back. This is LeBron in a switch against Gobert on the left side of the floor. Same sort of thing. Ball screen, switch. Minnesota's going to live with this. You're not going to beat the Timberwolves taking contested mid-range jump shots over Rudy Gobert. Look at this screen from Rui Hachimura. He goes to set the screen for Luka, but look, doesn't make contact. That's a bullshit screen. These are bullshit screens. He's not actually helping get his man open. He's got to hit Jaden. The only way you're going to create those openings is if you actually make contact on the screens. LeBron, Nickeil Alexander-Walker this year is shooting 46% field goal percentage, 46% on unguarded catch and shoot jump shots. LeBron has Nickeil Alexander-Walker right now. If you're locked in mentally, you know you're guarding a 46% wide open shooter. You cannot be sinking this far into the lane. He just concedes it to Nickeil Alexander-Walker and he knocks it down. That's really bad defense. That is lacking playoff intensity. I thought this was an example of just kind of like foreshadowing the bad process we saw from LeBron later in the game attacking bigs. When LeBron attacks bigs in switches, he doesn't have speed against them anymore because he's too old, and he doesn't have size against them anymore because he's, going against bigs, right? So he gets Naz Reid. This is not a favorable matchup. I don't like this matchup for LeBron. And what does he end up doing? Walks him down ends up taking this super contested floater that has no chance of going in. LeBron is not going to successfully beat bigs and switches anymore. He's not a good enough over the top shooter at any point in his career. And at this phase in his career, he doesn't have the speed to be going against bigs and switches like that. And you'll see a lot of that when we get into the mid-second quarter when the Wolves start to go on their run. This was something for Minnesota to continue to exploit throughout the series. As we can see, we have an action here set up with Austin on Mike Conley and Naz Reid on Jared Vanderbilt. Actions that involved a guard and a forward, the Lakers were not switching, at least not switching readily. They were switching after the fact, peel off switching, like hesitantly switching, right? And the Wolves were able to get a lot of easy openings just kind of baked into the coverage. So as you can see here, we have Austin and Vando off the ball here. Actually, I'm talking about this action here on the left side. So we have Dorian Finney-Smith on Julius Randle, and we have Gabe Vincent chasing Nickeil Alexander-Walker, but they are not switching. And so as a result, they're able to get Nickeil going downhill towards the rim because of that baked-in driving lane that comes from the curl. Here's another example from earlier in the game. Same sort of thing. As you can see, Gabe is chasing over the top on Dante, and Luka's in like a drop coverage. So as a result, Naz Reid is basically the pick and pop big who's always wide open, and he's able to get this layup. He just happens to smoke it. But these are examples of opportunities for the Wolves. If they run any action with a guard and one of their forwards, they're getting a lot of these baked in openings that come from the Lakers not switching. One of the big adjustments I have for the Lakers for game 2 is just switch everything. Like, just actually literally switch everything, because those sorts of openings are giving runways to better athletes than you. Same exact thing here. Naz Reid misses a 3, but it's the same type of action you'll see. I believe it's with Dante as well. So once again, we have a guard and a forward. Ball screen. For some reason, they're not switching. Naz Reid is open. He just happens to miss that. That's a peel-off switch. So as you can see, the Lakers are switching it, but not intentionally. They're switching it reactively. So Gabe went over the screen and then was like, oh shit, I should switch and then get back. That's where the opening is. If you just cleanly switch that from the start of the possession, you can take away that opening. I thought Jaden McDaniels showed a lot of really impressive scoring ability yesterday. Here's an example attacking Austin Reaves in the post. This is a tough left shoulder fade over the top. He did a lot of really high-level scoring last night. More confusion from the Lakers as to whether or not they want to switch with their forwards. Same sort of thing. Conley and Naz Reid. Vando looks completely unprepared for the drive coming off the screen. Like, if this is a clean switch, then Vando will close out on Connolly and engage the ball. But instead, look at him. He's pointing. He's literally like, oh shit, switch. And it just caught him off guard. They're just not ready. And so that was a little game plan thing that Minnesota did a lot of work exploiting in the first half, particularly just the clean openings because of the Lakers not switching with their forwards. There's another example of Austin just clearly being out of rhythm. This is a shot that you will never see Austin miss. Like, he probably shoots 95% on floaters inside of like this distance, and he just alligator armed it. The time Austin and LeBron have both always been rhythm players, and they both have always struggled after time off, and they get a week off, and they both just look completely unprepared for the game last night. This was an example of the Lakers. I talked last night about how it seemed like to the game plan for me that the Lakers were just leaving Naz Reid open and treating him the way you would treat a Jaden McDaniels or a Julius Randle, and I thought that was a mistake. Here's another example of that. All right, so we have a post up. Julius is on LeBron, right? LeBron can guard Julius Randle. Julius can hit a tough left shoulder fadeaway or right shoulder fadeaway over him, but he's not going to like bully that matchup. What you're doing here, Jared Vanderbilt, is you're making life extremely easy for Julius Randle, because Julius Randle has LeBron James, and instead of having to score on LeBron James, you're allowing him to just rifle a simple swing pass to a very good shooter who knocks it down. Naz Reid, by the way, 44% on unguarded catch and shoot jump shots. It goes down to 29% when you guard him. So that is like a very simple game plan piece that I'm tying more to JJ Redick, just because I saw so many different defenders make that same mistake last night. As a game plan adjustment for game 2, you can't treat Naz Reid the way you treat Jaden McDaniels. That's going to burn you if you do that in this series. This was a very clean look for LeBron in pick and pop. These are shots that LeBron's going to have to hit in this matchup. Simple ball screen. Conley's chasing what's always open in the pick and pop. What's always open against the drop coverage, the pick and pop. LeBron just has to hit that shot. Here's an example of Jaden McDaniels just beating the Lakers to the ball on the other end of the floor. So as you can see here, Julius Randle takes a three in LeBron's face. We have 4 Lakers surrounding Jaden McDaniels, and Jaden McDaniels beats everyone to the ball. Now, this is where I want to get on Vando, because it's like, Vando, the reason why you're out here, literally the reason why you're on the court, is what you can do defensively and on the glass. Shot is in the air. Jaden and Jared are more or less in the same position. Like, Jaden and Vando are both in position to get this rebound. The difference is Jaden fought for position and went for it. Vando didn't until it was too late, and Jaden got an easy putback. That's really over and over again. You'll see in these examples, there's just a level of playoff intensity that Minnesota was bringing that the Lakers were not matching. I thought LeBron, just instead of just measured and slowly and methodically attacking smalls, he's got 7 seconds here against Nickeil Alexander-Walker. Slow the fuck down, back him down, get to one of your right shoulder fades at like 7 feet. Instead, he just drives and panics and throws a jump pass to Jackson, who's not really that open. Like, Naz Reid is there, and so it ends up being kind of a tough angle. And once again, Jackson Hayes not really providing any vertical spacing. Here's another example of the Lakers not wanting to switch with their 4s like we talked about. So we got a ball screen, not switching, which allows Jaden McDaniels to take a drop coverage mid-ranger. But look at how every Laker just stands around and watches Jaden McDaniels go get his own rebound. What's LeBron doing there? Like, if you're going to be in a drop, you got to get the rebound. But everyone's just standing around and watching Jaden McDaniels get it. Look at Rui. Look at Rui's intensity. Jaden just beats him to the ball. Like, it almost just looked like the Lakers just were a step slow to everything in the entire game with their intensity. Here's another example of that lack of intensity. So here's a post entry against Jaden McDaniels. But look at how lazy Austin is on this pass. Look at this pass from Austin. He just turns and tries to throw it, and it gets deflected by. That's Jaden McDaniels. You're going to have to make a pass fake, and you're going to have to find an angle to make a post entry. Instead, it gets deflected, and now LeBron's attacking Nickeil further out. Now, for example, this is the exact same play that I just showed you. 7 seconds left. Nickeil Alexander-Walker. LeBron finally turns his back and just backs him down, gets to that easy right shoulder fade from 8 feet, fucking knocks it down and gets the foul. This is basic execution stuff to improve your chances of winning in this matchup. Austin, pass fake, make a post entry. You have to be very disciplined against this length that Minnesota has. LeBron, your advantage is your size and strength. It is not over the top shooting. It is not trying to use your speed against bigs. You're too big for these little dudes. That's your advantage. Playoff intensity. Watch the shot go up. Watch Nickeil Alexander-Walker. All these Lakers are in here, right? LeBron's down here. Luka Doncic is in here. Nickeil Alexander-Walker is going to lead a run-out fast break for an easy bucket while LeBron and Luka are completely uninvolved. Watch this. Look at that. That's not playing playoff basketball. Nickeil Alexander-Walker is just outworking every single one of you guys. Once again, Austin Reaves setting a screen on Donte DiVincenzo. If you're playing playoff basketball, you are hitting Donte DiVincenzo and you are creating separation for Luka. You tell me what happens here. Donte hit Austin, and Austin didn't hold his ground. That is lacking playoff intensity. As a result, Dante's able to stay attached throughout the ball screen, and he's able to strip Luka before he can go up into the shot. That is on Austin for not setting a good screen. And by the way, look at LeBron. Makes an effort in transition. What happens? He was in the corner. Look, he's in the deep corner. And he's able to get back into this play because he's making an effort in transition. Now, am I asking LeBron to make 17 chase down blocks a game? No. But if the team makes the efforts in transition, you can keep them under control in the transition game. Minnesota won the transition game 23-10 in this game. That's not going to cut it. This is where the wheels really started to come off for the Lakers in the second quarter. Tell me what you guys notice here. We have Rui Hachimura standing wide open at the top of the key with an opportunity to take a wide open trailer three in transition, which is a three he's practiced a million times. And instead, he goes, I'm going to try to dunk on Rudy Gobert. And that goes about exactly as you would have expected it to. All right, this was an example I talked last night about Luka losing some basic defensive rebound battles. So, like, Luka is ignoring Naz Reid here, which, once again, like we talked about in the game plan, is silly. But as he's ignoring Naz Reid, Anthony Edwards takes one of his, like, forced shots in the game, which he didn't take too many of, but he took a few. You got to get this rebound then, Luka. Like, if you're going to ignore Naz Reid down here, you got to get this rebound. Instead, as it came off, Luka didn't go get the ball, so Ant got it. Look at where the ball fell. The ball fell right to where Luka should have got it, but he didn't. So now you've left Naz Reid open, failed to get the defensive rebound, and now Naz Reid is open on the offensive rebound kick out for three. Like that's a huge momentum play in this game. You get a stop there, you go the other way, you score. It's a 3-point game. Instead, now you're down by 8 because you're just not matching the intensity of the Minnesota Timberwolves. LeBron just attacking bigs. Okay, you got Naz Reid. This is not your matchup. There's a small right there you can attack. There's a small right there you can attack. There are two guys on the floor that you can easily get to the post and get an easy bucket against. Instead, he tries to go at Naz Reid, doesn't turn the corner on him, gets blocked. That leads to a run out the other way. The Timberwolves get a layup. Okay, go down to the other end. Exact same thing, except for this time it's Rudy. So once again, they're pre-switching to get Nickeil Alexander-Walker up into the action. This is what's crazy. So like they're deliberately, intentionally going after the bigs. Look at this. They pre-switched Nickeil Alexander-Walker onto Rui to save Rudy Gobert from having to defend on the switch, saying, LeBron, if you want to attack Nickeil, go ahead. And instead, they're like, oh shit, it's not there anymore. So Dorian Finney-Smith runs up. Rui gets out. That way they can run the two-man game to get LeBron switched onto Rudy. He gets LeBron switched onto Rudy, and this is going to go exactly like it does every other time. LeBron is going to drive into the person, not be able to turn the corner, and get blocked at the rim. This, by the way, led to another run out for another wide open corner three for Naz Reid that went in. So like multiple repeated foolish attacks with a stupid game plan that just played right into Minnesota's hands. Like literally played right into Minnesota's hands, giving them easy transition runouts because you're just playing stupid basketball on offense. And this is I want to blame this on LeBron specifically because I've heard JJ talk about how he wants them to attack smalls in tight spaces, not bigs in space. He's fine with Luka doing it. LeBron and Austin, that's not their game. They don't need to be attacking Rudy Gobert in space. That's not an arrangement that's going to work for them. There's another example of a defensive rebound that Luka just should have got, but he just didn't go get the basketball. Shot goes up. Luka's got inside position and everything, just doesn't make any contact, and Naz Reid comes in and bats it out. Ball stays with Minnesota. There's another example of Julius Randle defending Luka Doncic really well. So we get a switch. Julius Randle did really well on these switches, man. This is really good defense. Look at him sliding the feet. Look, another thing too, look at how he's stabbing at the basketball. This is how you can disrupt rhythm. Look at how often he's like stabbing at the basketball, just like reaching, stabbing, just making sure to disrupt the rhythm as best as he can. That's really quality individual defense from Julius Randle. Here's another example of the Lakers overhelping off of Naz Reid. So we get a screen action that gets the switch. Look at how many bodies are already in the paint. So Julius is driving at Luka Doncic. LeBron's in position to help. Gabe Vincent's there. This is the strong side corner. You do not help here. And the game plan has consistently been Gabe is the guy that's hopping across the lane line and meeting you here. This is really fucking bad defense. You just allowed Julius Randle to make the easiest passing read in the history of mankind because you vacated the strong side corner to help on a situation that didn't need help. That's just really fucking terrible defense. Luka just giving up a simple back cut to Anthony Edwards. A lot of Luka leaving his feet in this game and getting out of position, like jumping at ball fakes and stuff like that, just undisciplined. Here's LeBron again attacking a big in space. He makes this one, but it's like this is what you're going to get. You're going to get these like semi-contested mid-range jump shots. He's just not going to make enough of those for that to be a worthwhile method for them to attack. Here's an example of the Wolves just beating every Laker to the ball again. So the ball shot goes up. Let's see. We got all. If you looked at this situation, you would think the Lakers are in an advantageous position for rebounding. Rui's inside position on Jaden. LeBron's inside position on Naz. Dorian's in the paint. All these three Wolves are way out here. Watch how much quicker the Wolves are to the ball. That's not fighting. You think you're going to get the trophy by not like fighting and competing? You're never going to get the trophy without fighting or competing. Look at Gabe. Watch Gabe when the rebound goes up. Still hasn't moved. Still walking. These guys are already shooting towards the ball. That's like everybody needs to be swarming the way that the Wolves are swarming. Then your skill advantages can take place. But they're not going to take place if you get so badly outworked like that. Remember when I said Austin wasn't setting good fucking screens? Watch this one. Watch the difference. Boom. Lays the wood, actually hits him, holds his ground, leverages body, sets a good screen. Now look at what happens as a result. The entire Wolves defense reacts to the advantage that Luka created there, and it generates a wide open three for Austin. Now he bricks it because he's still out of rhythm, and I think Luka missed the read a little bit there. He should have hit him earlier. But again, that is what happens when you meet the intensity of the moment and you set a good physical screen. You can get openings even against good defense. And frankly, if you do that every time down the floor, it'll be much easier for you to get into a rhythm. First possession of the second half. Let's see if the Lakers took the adjustment properly at the just all of the ass chewing that JJ was delivering at halftime. Let's see if they took it seriously. First possession, we get a ghost screen. So this should just be a switch. Instead, it's not. They fuck it up again, and Austin looks confused as to what's happening. Rui looks confused, and Ant just drives right downhill, easy kick out to Jaden McDaniels. Why is that not just a switch? Why isn't Rui just closing out on Ant and Austin closing out to Conley? Like that's a way to shut down these easy driving lanes that are appearing. All right, just a few more from this game. Look at Rui Hachimura's defense on Anthony Edwards here. We get another couple switches. Now look at how on the switch, you're guarding Anthony Edwards on a switch, and you're not in a defensive stance. You're standing completely upright, and so you can probably guess what's going to happen next. And it goes right around him. Like, that's not basketball. That's not playoff intensity. That's not basketball. You are standing upright, not even in a defensive stance on Anthony fucking Edwards. Are you kidding me right now? As I told you guys, it's going to be an angry Laker fan film session. And then LeBron on this possession, if you're not going to be in there, like helping on the drive or rebounding, then you can't be leaving Julius Randle open. So he's just standing around, doesn't get the rebound, Ant gets his own rebound, and there's Julius Randle wide open. That three goes in, guys. That three goes in. on a possession where LeBron did the exact same thing Luka did on the Naz Reid three in the first half, where you're standing in no man's land in the paint, not defending, not rebounding, conceding a wide open three. I did think these Luka post-ups of Jaden McDaniels worked pretty well. This is a look I think the Lakers can continue to go to throughout the series. Jaden McDaniels talked about last night how when Jackson Hayes was off the floor, it just felt like there were easier opportunities for him to get to the rim. This is an example of excellent weak side scoring from a forward. So we have the closeout. The closeout's there, right? So the three is taken away. Jaden's move, his read here is to rack baseline and try to get all the way to the rim, and he does. That's not Jackson Hayes. It's Luka Doncic at the rim, and he's able to finish him over him easily. Here's another example of Austin just making like a really sloppy post entry pass and turning it over. Like these are just like so many unforced errors because the Lakers just weren't ready for the intensity of the moment. Lakers still not switching, so creating just easy openings. Once again, why is that not a switch? As a result, there's an easy corner for Dante DiVincenzo to turn. Look, as he's coming around, Vando's in a drop. Austin's chasing, so there's this easy driving lane causing Luka to sink into the paint. Also, make Dante DiVincenzo and Rudy Gobert connect on the lob here. This is another example of Luka over helping off of Naz Reid. And then I just thought this was a really, really impressive pass from Anthony Edwards. So Anthony Edwards had just seen as the team out of the off-ball screen just generated a look for Naz Reid that he made. So he knows Naz Reid just made a shot. So we're going to get a ball screen here with Naz. And he's going to attack Luka in the switch. And as he attacks Luka, look at how he reads Jared. He sees Vando ignoring Naz. Once again, Lakers ignoring Naz to help, just not the right guy for them to be ignoring. Jared needs to just either signal to Dorian Finney-Smith to stay with Naz and then him sit in the paint, or all these other guys need to be helping. It can't be Naz. And then as a result, you have Vando helping at the rim, and Ant makes just a really nice feed to Naz Reid in the corner who knocks it down. So again, like, I want to be clear, the Wolves kicked their ass, and the Wolves demonstrated that they have some advantages in this series. But I also thought there were just like dozens of obvious examples of the Lakers just looking like they were unprepared for playoff basketball. The Bucks and the Lakers were the two teams I watched yesterday that looked utterly blindsided by the intensity of the moment. And so here's the thing. The Wolves might just be better than the Lakers, and that might bear out over the course of the series. But in game 2, I think we'll get a better feel of just how big that gap is one way or the other when the Lakers bring the appropriate intensity, because there's just a level that they have to get to that they were just completely unready for in this game. All right, guys, that's a long film session, 86 clips later. I hope you guys got a little bit more information about how those matchups look after game 1. A little bit of news for tonight. We are going with Colin Cowherd after the Warriors game instead of doing the normal Hoops Tonight show. So just a heads up, make sure you go over to Colin Cowherd's podcast feed to see our reaction to tonight's games. I will see you guys then.